Hey everybody, welcome back to the HIT.OR.DIE podcast with your hosts Jake Saldati and Chad Rothford, and a Bulldog born, Bulldog bred.
Gonna be a Bulldog till the damn dead.
Mike Stovall. If you don't know, he was a offensive lineman from 99 to 2002.
97.
97.
2001.
You got the red shirts and all that in there. Sorry. But this is actually a personal one for me. I know I've said David Carr was my favorite player as a Bulldog, but I actually have a connection with Mike that he didn't even really know about. Is I was one of the guys that he always gave one of his gloves to. Not every game, but a lot of the games I probably had about 5 or 6 stinky lefty gloves, because I know he only wore one glove because his snapping hand had tape on his fingers. And a lot of people probably don't know that. So that
true?
That even knows it's a true story. That I'm not bullshitting. So Mike Stovall was definitely a guy that I liked watching when he was playing, and I told him this, and he reminded me of how Jason Kelce is right now. You guys see him with the Eagles and how he interacts with the crowd and just the way he is. He's a hard-nosed guy in the trenches, but he has fun, and that was what you were to me. So, but I do appreciate you coming on the show, and we're trying to get a Bulldog guy on right before they go.
Yeah, got the LA Bowl this weekend
Let's
against
go.
Washington State.
SoFi Stadium.
It's gonna be awesome, man. Should be a good turnout. I had heard the allotment of tickets has already been sold out, so that's awesome, man. The Dogs usually travel well.
It's one thing we still got.
Before we dive into you and some of your story, some local football, you're repping the Memorial Panthers hoodie.
I'm surprised there's not a Hanford logo with that.
It's kind of small north right there.
Sorry, I gotta take the jab.
I gotta
take the jab. I gotta take the jab.
I mean, that was another thing out there on Twitter. I think it was it Andy Bogard that went out there and
Yeah, he did actually, and I don't like Andy Bogard or agree with anything that he says,
but he went in the paint pretty good there. I mean, whatever. But you had state title games over the weekend. Congrats to Liberty, who won the Division I. Was it Division or Open? It was one, right?
It was Division I. Open was Bosco.
And was I right? Was it at Sac City?
I didn't look.
I forgot what the scoreboard said.
But it was at a turf field.
Yes. It was at a,
Is that where we're going?
Yeah, that's where we're going. We don't talk a lot of football on here, so we're gonna open.
Atascadero.
And Atascadero I think they shut out too, right? Their opponent.
I believe
so. Congrats to them and to Shafter for just getting there, having an awesome season. They won the section, and then dropped their state game to Orland, I believe,
20-7.
20-7. And
in the Mud Bowl.
In the Mud Bowl, apparently, and their coach went viral over the weekend for he threw
CIF.
the CIF under the bus, as he should have. I've heard a bunch of different takes on it. It's been all over social media. What was your take when you first saw it? We'll start with you.
Well, as a player mindset, I got up and got excited. I mean, I want a coach like that. That's who I want to play for. That's the guy. That is the type of personality that I came to Fresno State for, to be honest, is I want a guy that's going to get in the trenches and fight with me. And I think that coach, hats off to you, sir. I don't know who you are. I've never met you. But I think CIF has a long ways to go in, standing up for or collecting their credence and doing what they're supposed to do. I think the playing on that field is – I go both sides, to be honest, because as an offensive lineman, I want to run the ball. So for me, give me mud. I'll take mud all day long. But I think what he said in that interview that we've all played over and over is – we wanted a chance for both teams to shine. And I think that's really where high school football is going, is giving these kids an opportunity to show their talents.
Yeah, I totally agree. What did you think, Chad, when you saw? I mean,
I agreed, but then you also brought up a point. If they won, would he have gone viral for this kind of statement?
Would he have made the same comments?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing, is because he's so right. But if they won, he might not. Even though he might have been mad about the conditions, he might have though. Even though we won, he might have said the field conditions are terrible and CIF needs to do something. But most likely, it probably wouldn't have happened. But I do agree that they probably should be at a neutral site and in the best playing conditions.
Well, if other teams were, then yeah, I think you should have been.
It's
right?
lazy on the CIF, if you want my opinion. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings.
No,
that's just my opinion.
And I think a lot of people. I read a lot of, both teams had to play on the same field, which is true. They both did. One probably runs the ball better than the other. No, Shafter's quarterback can sling it. The kid's a player. And that's kind of what I heard is that their office is built around. So playing in those conditions, yeah, it limits what they're good at, which I would be frustrated too. But at the same time, like I said, if they'd have won the game, probably are we making the same comments. And while I feel like when you see Division I and II playing at neutral sites with turf and they're not dealing with those similar conditions, does it look like the CF? Well, yeah, it's D6. Who really cares? They really going to care what's going on down there? And to me, that's what it kind of looks like. Mm-hmm. So these guys,
and it happens around here. Bowl, they probably would have canceled the game and played another later date.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yep.
Right. If it's De La Salle and.
But was he? My one question to that is, was he that animated before the game? Because they knew the conditions going in. Yeah. Was that considered? I mean, were the coaches? I don't know, to be frank, but were the coaches given the opportunity to go to another site? Was that it? Did they bring it up before the game? We'll never know. But I think it is for the sport. I think it's sad to see. I mean, I think D5, D6, these guys may not ever have a chance to go to the next level. It's their last game that they'll ever play in their lives. Give them a chance to go out on a high note.
Well, why does one matter more than the others?
It shouldn't.
Right?
Not just ticket sales. It's the spirit of the game.
Well, even with ticket sales, because we do know CIF does care about that. Wouldn't you get more ticket sales if you're at a neutral site with a better facility?
One would think.
I mean, because
I don't know.
It's probably raining there too. Maybe I don't know. I know the field looked like it was just absolute disaster.
It did. It looked a mess. And when you got people saying, "Well, you're making excuses." Maybe I didn't hear him making excuses about it, other than that it was.
No, and he congratulated.
It's not where
Portland.
you showcase the two best teams in that division.
Yeah,
and I agree with that. I also agreed with the people saying, well, they both had to play with the same conditions. Mm-hmm. I agree with that too.
I do too.
So it is what it is. I didn't feel like he was out of line at all either, by the way. No. Like
he did a great job. I think every one of us watching this and here knew what he was trying to say and the words he wanted to use. And he did a phenomenal job of reining that back in and representing his school. So kudos to him.
And I saw some other stuff too of schools from out of state. There was somebody from Texas on one of the comments that I read talking about that's not happening here. Like Texas,
they're saying how Texas is so fortunate.
Yeah, they're not
all their fields
having that turf. Kind of issue there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, don't they play in the Cowboys practice facility?
I think so. I thought I saw something.
Yeah.
Like
If you ever
that.
get a chance to take that tour, goodness gracious.
I thought it was beautiful. Their stadium at first when they were doing it.
They're like practice facility, yeah.
But it's still multi-million-dollar facility,
beautiful,
and they host all the
state championships
there.
I think that's something we should sit down and figure out with Fresno State.
Yes,
that's the call. I think Pags brought it up when we were talking about where to go back and forth in Bakersfield or here. Everybody wants to be a Bulldog. Let's do the state championships, at least Valley championships for sure at Fresno State. So
I'd be down.
I agree.
I mean, people are afraid to approach things that are that big.
Well, I think there's money. It's a money thing.
It comes down to that.
It's a matter of sitting down with the right people in the room and saying, look, big picture, I want, how many kids are on a team? 50, 60 times, how many games are there? 6, 7.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of kids exposure for my coaches. If I'm a college coach, it's one chance for me to go and send my coaches to recruit those kids. So it's a huge opportunity for the Central Valley kids to get noticed, not just by Fresno State, but other colleges.
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. We'll see if anything happens from it or comes about it. It was big news. You kept seeing that video of that interview everywhere. And again, though, congratulations to all those teams that won, again, Tascadero, Liberty, and then also Shafter on a really awesome season. Mm-hmm. The other story that came out locally over the weekend in our section, we also have people listening everywhere, but in this area was a stat gate. What is it?
Sunnyside stat
Yards gate. I don't know the particulars.
I was one to question it right when it happened.
Nick brought it up on his episode last week, but not in detail. It turns out that some of the yards attributed to Sunnyside were wrong.
It's a fair statement.
Fair. So you are a little more in the know on this?
Well, I've gone through a couple games, and I was also challenged by someone else to go back and look at some of the games. And so I sat down with my kids, and we've gone through 2 games ourselves, and they're about 230 yards off.
Just in those 2 games.
Just in those 2 games. And then I reached out to a buddy of mine, former Fresno State athlete and coaching over at Roosevelt, and he had more touchdowns than they scored total points. So it was interesting to see how.
So they had no rushing touchdowns.
They had. I think he threw 2 touchdowns against them. I'm going off memory here. I was going to pull it up on my phone, but he had 2 touchdowns thrown against them, and I think 220 yards. And he wound up with, I could be off, 3 touchdowns and 300 something yards. And the score wasn't that. I'll tell you that. So it was interesting to see and hear from someone that played against them. So I think they do have a problem there. How bad that is, I'm not sure yet. So
now, before you say that, I want to say it's Dwayne Wright that you're probably talking about.
I'm not.
You're not? Oh. Well, he popped up today, too. I just want to congratulate him real quick. He's coaching one of the All-American teams in San Diego.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty awesome. Good for him.
Is he coaching his kid?
I don't know. He just posted that he is getting to coach one of the All-American teams in San Diego.
I think one of his kids is either a junior or senior in high school and carrying on the running back tradition for Pops. So
where are you at, Roth, on when you saw that? You sent it to me. I didn't see. I wouldn't know what I was
saw
doing.
Pax say it. And don't get me wrong, I've seen the kid play. I've seen him throw. I've seen some of his highlights. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. Can he hit? Did he have a good receiving core? Yes. But
is the issue really with?
It's not with him,
right?
It's with whoever kept the damn stats.
Yeah.
So Sunnyside,
and we know his dad was the head coach. That's another thing that everybody's talking about.
I didn't know that. Sunnyside versus Roosevelt, 16-7. He threw 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's it. They got film down for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns.
They didn't even score 21 points.
Right.
And he has 3 touchdowns.
I won't say the next comment that he said, but it wasn't good. Like, what the heck? So
have they come out and responded to any of this? I know that I heard their meeting was a little, not just a little, it was pretty animated when they had their all-league meeting because this came up. Yeah. And now that it's come out, I have not seen or heard of the Sunnyside coaches made a response.
I haven't seen anything.
I haven't either.
At least on social media.
I have heard word on the street was a kid was keeping stats, and I think growing up, baseball, basketball, football, we all know our statistician on a team. I can name my high school statistician off right now.
So you had 100 pancakes, but you really had 50.
Yeah, I probably had 450 in a game. He really liked me, and I bought him coffee every Saturday morning. So, but that guy, and if there's not a guy or gal that is on every team doing that, that's a shame. That's a huge component of I think the sport.
Yeah,
is having an accurate statistician. So.
And I don't know any of them personally, so I'm not going to be one to call, them in their integrity or what kind of people. I'm not going to go there, and I'm certainly not going to say anything revolving the kid because I've seen the same highlights you've seen. The kid can play.
Absolutely.
It's a black eye is probably putting it lightly. I don't know because you're talking about records.
Yes, that's the problem.
And when Tompkins did what he did against the competition he did, we kind of brought it up on here, and it's not hating.
No,
because people will take it as hating.
It's just facts.
They're not all records are one and the same or created equal. I remember a hit record. I think CP's hit record got beat, and no knock on the young man that overtook that record. But I know what CP Chris Patrick did it against. And not to say that the competition that this young man did it against wasn't bad or was bad, but they're not the same. They're not always the same. And people take that the wrong way. And so when it comes to that, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You're
talking about all league stuff and that's whatever. There's politics in every league.
Amen to that. I think he is the best quarterback. I'll say that in that league. But it comes down to records. That's the problem. And I think if this can all be figured out, if somebody will go back through and look at all the games and tally it up, and if we're wrong, then we're wrong. Okay, cool. Take your record. That's all we're asking.
But I mean, if the record's still valid, awesome. Like,
Sweet.
It's not. It is by 30 yards. So he's already 200 plus yards behind the record.
But we're already, we're hearing that there are issues, and they're not small numbers. And
No.
It's like going to play golf and you're playing for money, and the guy goes and picks up the golf ball and puts it in the hole. That's basically how I feel about it.
Did you see the video of the guys, the fishing guys that were cheating, putting weights in the fish? Did you see that?
I saw that. That boy got a hurting.
I mean,
good on
well,
them.
it's just like, did you see the foursome that shot a 46?
Well, yeah, that's where I was going there next. Then the
With
guy,
a 350-yard hole in one.
yeah,
Oh, come on. bro.
357.
And then an albatross.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. I mean, in the spirit of the game, do the right thing. And it's not even that kid's fault. I mean, the kid's getting attached to that. He's not the one documenting his yardage. So
Yeah.
I think the kid shouldn't be blamed one way or the other.
And I hope he's not, man. I really.
But I mean, that
Don't.
not even having 3 touchdowns in a game, and then somebody saying you had 3 touchdowns in a game, that's kind of like,
well, it's blatant. It's deliberate.
that's very
You're
deliberate.
deliberately.
How do you
fudging stuff.
add on a touchdown when the score doesn't even? I mean, if it was 24 to something and you said he had 3 of the touchdowns, then nobody would even question it because be like, oh, it's 24.
And that's what I'm saying.
So there's 3 touchdowns. Scored.
There's details I don't know. Who kept the score? Who was charting all that stuff? What, you know what I mean? Who's to say who's to blame? The fact is that
It happened.
it came out,
Get the facts.
and some of the facts thus far are saying that what they had is off. And like you said, if it's not as bad or off as far as some thought, okay,
I mean, think about this. Take off 500 yards of what the kid threw. He still had a ridiculously good year.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. The kid had an amazing year. So we just want to act.
And he was a sophomore or junior?
He's young. I don't know if he's just
He was a sophomore or junior. I know that. I think he was a sophomore, actually.
He's young.
And honestly,
There's some young quarterbacks in the Valley that are slinging right now.
like kudos to whoever kind of had the sack to bring that to the forefront. Because
Well,
that's
probably
not,
every coach and then.
but I'm saying it's not easy. Was it
somebody
though?
that we
I don't
know
know.
might have got fed.
I don't know. If people are watching or listening that know, I would like to know. Because it's not easy to you're questioning somebody's integrity and character. That's not easy.
That's big.
You know what I mean? That's hard to do when you respect your opponents.
It happens in baseball, though. We've been in meetings where it's like, that guy didn't bat 430.
Well, we brought that up with Nick as well. Like,
Yeah.
there were some baseball stats. And that's the thing. These stats
Nobody
aren't,
posts this.
and they're not right.
I have 2 no-hitters, by the way, in T-ball.
Yeah.
I was on the mound.
I mean,
I was the worst kid on the team.
you got to get credit. You got to get credit for those. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know how the stats thing gets fixed.
How about just as a coach? Like, that's your job. I'm sorry. You're the head coach. That's your job to see the stats. I know it's harder in football because you have offense, defense, and like special teams, and there's so many yards put in that. But as I know for a baseball guy, that's your job after every game to go through the stats that just happened and plug it in. You know what I mean? And that's why, in high school, I was so big on getting our stats over to the Fresno Bee. I wanted everything right and get it correctly done. The head coach has to take some kind of responsibility or accountability for it.
Yep. I'll add to that. Statisticians are important. They're kind of like centers. If you don't do it right, you get this. So we get fumbles and plays don't happen if centers don't snap balls. So connecting the two, it's a weird connection, but yeah, whatever.
I appreciate the effort to do
right?
so.
That was a stretch, but my point is my kids are in high school now, and one's a senior, one's a junior, and I'm paid attention a lot more to max preps and who's putting scores in and stats and all that stuff. Get somebody on each school, like somebody volunteer, be a part of that, step up, and even if you don't get it perfect, try your best and ask for help. And I think there's enough people at each school that would be willing to come alongside you and help you out. But it is sad to see one school. We played multiple schools, and our stats were in there, and then the other schools weren't in there 2 or 3 weeks later. And it's those kids are looking at that. They want to see that, and they should. I mean, they earned it. If they're putting the numbers out there.
You're asking them to come out every day and put in the work that they put in the
care of
off
it.
season, in the weight room, in the fall, in the summer.
That is a head coach's job
To
ensure.
I agree with you.
Yep.
So we'll see what comes out of it, or if there is a response, more than welcome to hit us up here and respond. Cool. I'm more than welcome or happy to hear it. So yeah, just some big news around this area with high school football. Getting to you, my friend. Before we started, we were saying you're a Bulldog
Through and through.
by way of Texas. Go ahead. Yeah,
Born in Tennessee, moved to Texas, lived there until I was in 8th grade, and then my mom was a civilian for the Air Force, and we got moved to Arkansas for 2.5 years, and then Nebraska for 2 years.
And you did your high school football in Arkansas and Nebraska.
Yep.
So being here as long as you have, before we get into the dog stuff, well, and I guess it's also time's different, right? It's a different era of everything. But like football in Arkansas, Nebraska versus California.
Well, back then in Nebraska,
it was probably
Nebraska was big.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I had a serious level up when I got to Nebraska, coming from Arkansas. I was on varsity as a freshman, sophomore in Arkansas, and came to Nebraska, and it was like eye-opening. Like, these guys train, at least in the Metro Conference in the Omaha area. It was very similar to, I'll say Clovis schools, Clovis, Central, San Joaquin, all those guys that are kind of performing well. Is very similar to that at the time.
Did you ever go to just Omaha? So that was where you were at, Omaha? Mm-hmm. So did you ever go to like the College World Series?
Oh, yeah.
Rosenblatt? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We snuck in all the time. I never paid for a ticket.
How was that?
I shouldn't say that.
What was that atmosphere?
Strike that from this.
You
can't get me now, right?
Stadium's not even open anymore.
It's a real stadium. It's the original stadium. So that was definitely memories that my buddies from high school we can latch onto. So,
how was that to see the Dogs win there in 2008?
It was awesome. It was unexpected. I mean, you don't realize how good that team is until you step back and look at each player on that team and how they put it together. That was a very well-crafted team, top to bottom.
Playing in the stadium you used to sneak into.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. It's obviously they well, not obviously, people don't know they tore it down, but like the foul poles are still up, and they have a little mini version of it, and they have the sign still. It's a pretty cool spot. There's just some history there, man. I always wanted to go there, and I never got to go there. So
that's an amazing place to check out. If you get even the new stadium.
Yeah, Oh, this new stadium's awesome.
Not knocking it, but
no.
We got to go back. We won state championship my senior year. So we got to go back last year and celebrate our 25th anniversary and get inducted into the Nebraska Hall of Fame. So that was really cool for me to, I don't know. I'm 25 years out of high school. Holy cow. 24 technically, I think. I don't know, whatever. Splitting hairs at this point. But it was really cool to see a bunch of the guys that, we fought and bled with that are actually they're successful now and doing well. And a lot of them stayed around that area. So it's, we're blessed.
So how do you get from Nebraska to Fresno State? Obviously, recruiting's a national thing. Pat Hill was very good at it.
Yep.
How'd the visit how that all
Did we have
start?
a good NIL deal out here?
Yeah. Oh, God, no.
For no bags of money for you?
No. Coach Wagner, my offensive line coach, Dennis Wagner, was head coach at Wayne State. And he was friends with my coach and Coach Sir, Gene Sir, if you look it up, SUHR, he's a legend. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach, great, well-known guy, done a lot of coaching clinics. He knew Coach Wagner through Wayne State, and I love the passing offense that they were running. They were high fly. If you look back, 93, 94, they were throwing the ball. I think they either won a national championship or they were up there towards the top and lost in the championship or something like that. But I just love the way they ran their offense. They were a lot of no huddle, a lot of throw and go and getting down the field. And they had a couple guys go to the NFL, and I loved all that. That was cool. And then when he came into my living room my junior year, I bought into what he was doing, and tough, hard-nosed, aggressive football. And when he got an opportunity to go to Fresno State, he said, you're athletic enough to play Division I, but we'll see if anybody takes a chance on you. That was kind of the attitude of recruiting for me. I think I was 0 stars.
So was I.
I was more than that, but it feels like 0 stars at the time.
Stars. And I might have been negative stars.
It was negative. Wow, that's a new category.
That's fucking right.
And it was really between Fresno State and Colorado State. And at the time, Sonny Lubick was the head coach there, and another legend. And Coach Hill was flying into Fresno State, and I sat down with him. I think he came to my house. It was kind of a blur. I was thinking back through that because I knew you guys were going to ask questions. I had too many concussions, so I think he came to my house. I could be wrong, but I remember his message. It was, we're going to play tough, hard-nosed, aggressive football, and we're going to play as long as we can to win. And it was like, I like that. He's like, I want to run the ball more than Coach Wags did at Wayne State, but we're also going to have the guys up front that can do that. Do you want to be a part of that? And it's like, yep, here's my ticket. Let's go.
There was no, like, you weren't afraid to leave the air. I mean, you've already moved around a little bit, so
my mom got
not afraid of new things.
She got a transfer to McClellan Air Force Base, so she was still working in the military, civilian for the Air Force, and so she moved out and quickly got transferred down to San Bernardino. But she moved out. She raised me. It was just me and her, so there was really no attachment to much. But happy that I made the choice.
So did you know, like, regardless if it was D1 or JUCO, like, you wanted to play football beyond high school, though? You knew that?
Yeah. I knew after my junior year, my head coach sat down with me and a guy named Coach Cush, Kevin Cush, my offensive line coach, and they're sitting in the weight room, and it's real. It's real. The feeling is heavy, and it's like you walk into the room and they're going to have the talk, and it's like, okay, you're nervous, you're stumbling over yourself, and I sit down with you, and they're like, we think you could play Division I football. It's like, wow, really? I feel like you coached me like I'm garbage, so I had no idea that was good. Wow. Okay.
But had nobody said nothing, you would have probably just, okay, high school's over, now go into the real world, or what?
I was.
Had somebody not pulled you aside and said, hey, you can do this?
Well, and I knew that was my only way to get a college education, to be honest. I mean, we didn't come from much. Right. We weren't. I wasn't. Didn't have the silver spoon in my mouth. So my mom always said, if you get your grades, see what happens. It opens doors. And I always had my grades, and I was thinking I was going to go. Actually, fun fact, I had a trombone scholarship to UNO, University of Nebraska Omaha. So, I was going to be a Maverick. And after Coach said I could get a scholarship for football, I was like, trombone down. Let's go. We're going to go. No more band nerd for me. I'm going to be a football player when I grow up. So.
Hey, Scully is a Scully, though,
yeah, absolutely.
Right? I know a guy that had a Scully for being timeout, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. So that's very cool. But I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity, and there was some good. I still have all the letters. I went through them with my kids. That was, you keep all that stuff because you want to go through those with your kids, and it was cool to go down memory lane. And one of my good friends, he went to Kansas State, so I wanted to be a Wildcat for a while, and I wasn't really necessarily tied to Nebraska. A lot of kids were, and at the time they were winning national championships, and I remember. Coach Solich walked in. I went to the recruiting trip and went to a game, and Coach Solich walked in, and he's like, "Okay, where are you at? Where's your head at?" I said, "Well, I'm yours if you want me. I want to play for Nebraska. That's every kid's dream here." And he's like, "Well, with all due respect, we don't really have to give a lot of scholarships out right now for offensive line." And I was like, "I understand." They had the Remington legend. If you look, Dave Remington was the center back in the day, and they named an award after him. He's so good. So. It was an honor to be, a Husker, and so bringing all that down, he replaced me with Dominic Raiola, and he's pretty good. So I feel good about myself. I did okay. I wasn't as good as Dominic Raiola, for the record, but I did go to Fresno State and beat Colorado State 3 times. So that made me feel good.
Yeah, it's a team thing.
Yeah.
So you make your way out here. Was
this the first time in Cali?
Yeah, I never been out. I never been west of Texas and West Texas, not even
so your
El Paso,
first
Texas.
California experience is Fresno.
Well, I learned about point shaving and Trent Dilfer and Jerry Tartanian, and basically point shaving. That was all those things wrapped into one conversation. So it was. I didn't know what point shaving was.
But then, it was still a hard ticket to get, right? You were here for those years.
I remember walking in.
Chris Herron's been on the podcast, by the way.
Hats off to that man. That guy has gone through some demons and hell and back. So hats off to that gentleman. I've never met him, but maybe we might have met in the
I'll have to send you the episode. It's really good. Yeah, really
definitely.
Good episode.
What was I going to say?
Your first visit to Fresno.
I remember.
Sorry.
Recruiting trip.
Yeah.
Went with AJ Gass, and we went over to some houses and they were doing some crazy things. And not AJ, of course. He was completely a civil angel, and it was interesting. And so, I thought in my head, beaches, hot chicks, California,
surfboards,
let's go. I'm not going to surf. Surfing and me we don't work out. I'll float, but I'm not going to surf. But Got here and
what the hell is this?
chicks might be hotter back in Nebraska. I'm just kidding. But it was definitely a culture shock. I remember walking into the weight room the first day, and my high school weight room was way better than what they had. I mean, we had mirrors on the floor, carpet was ripped out. They were ripping it out to do locker rooms and coaches' offices because they were building a weight room on the other side of the property. So, but it was definitely eye-opening when you walk in. I mean, because Coach Sweeney was a good man, and I have nothing negative to say about him, but the program had taken a dip, and it was in a bad place. And
do you feel like maybe it was just time? Because sometimes that happens.
It was.
Maybe it's time. Like
it was.
It's not, again, not a knock. People always take shit
personally
further than it needs to go.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it's time.
Time for change.
Yeah.
And I know there was him and Tedford, Coach Hill and Coach Tedford were in a battle for who was going to get, to replace Coach Sweeney, and Coach Tedford was still on the staff, and so there was some tension there. They didn't let it show in front of us, but you look back on it, and there definitely was some tension because egos got hurt, and Coach Tedford obviously went on and did his own thing, and he
Well, being alumni, there's pride
amazing.
Pride
So,
here, yeah,
absolutely, and then being able to come back and then going through some hard stuff, and then being able to come back a second time, I have nothing but respect for that man. He's always been generous to me and always been respectful, and I have nothing but good things to say about him.
I think the program's also been lucky to have him.
100%.
Considering where it was just before he got here.
Fresno State athletics is lucky to have him. Period. In general.
So your first taste of football here, won the Heat, right? I'm sure it's different, much different environment than what you were used to, right? It's not as cold in the winter, I'm sure, and just a different everything.
I didn't have to shovel snow. That was a win. I had a little thing. We'd shovel snow in boxers in high school just to show that we were manlier than the next person. It was cold. But I remember my first practice, we get on the field and, let me back up a little bit. There's a Fresno Bee. I'm not a huge fan, just for the record, but they wrote a really nice article to get my ass kicked. Stovall's the savior of the offensive line. It's like, what? I'm a high school kid coming in, and these guys are, they may not have been motivated, you saw the Deion Sanders thing. It's kind of similar to that mentality, like coming in, whooping some butt, getting people on the right ship, but they're still 4 years older than me, right? So I remember a guy named Andrew Jones lined up with him. One eye's going that way, one eye's going that way. God love you if you see this. But scared the crap out of me and snapped the ball and put me right on my back. It's like, oh, okay. He's like, welcome to Fresno State football, So you remember those times for sure.
And just even getting down to your first time, you make, because the locker room was still where you walk down the wall, down the hill, down. It was the same walk then, right? Was that experience your first time with the crowd?
Yeah, it was. Well, we were 6-6 my first year, so there definitely wasn't much of a red wave. The standbys and the guys that were always there, definitely, they were loud. And it was fun to be in that stadium because it does echo like crazy. It goes back and forth. So there definitely was loud games, but we weren't that good, to be honest. We had Pittman and we had Kimbrough and we had Volek and some good guys, but overall, we weren't great. We were starting a lot of freshmen my freshman year. I think out of 66 guys, I think we had 40 redshirt freshmen or freshmen guys on the team that traveled.
Louise.
So I broke my foot my first year, so it doesn't count. I broke my foot before the first game, but I got to watch all that. There was a lot of guys that you'd show up to the next meeting and there'd be seats empty, and Coach Hill had a bar, and if you didn't hit it, you're out. And between that meeting and the next meeting, you were out, and that was very eye-opening for me.
How much did he elevate your game? I always liked him as a coach. I loved the mentality. I was a fan. I was always a fan.
Gave me chills.
I was a big fan. I hated to see him go. I was probably part of the minority in that, where I didn't want to see him out. But that's another story for another day. But just
if people knew, if people had any idea what that man went through, and kept his mouth shut through the Thomas Bay era and all that, you really have no idea how much this guy cares about Fresno State, but you really have no idea how much this guy just bleeds Bulldog football. For me, Coach Wagner was a center at Utah. he had a connection with Coach McBride at Utah. Coach McBride's daughter was Coach Baxter's wife. So there's, the connections keep rolling. And Coach Hill, being a center too, undersized center, having that luxury of having two guys in the room, it sucks sometimes because they're all over you and they know what they expect and they know the bar that you should be at, calling you out and making you better. But it was definitely elevated as much. They got everything out of me that they could get out of me, which is probably sometimes they wish they would have just put their efforts into someone else. But very happy.
Listen, you were all whack.
I was surprised about that too.
I'm just you give yourself a little more credit than that.
I worked my butt off, but there was also a good strategy in place to get there. And Steve Sabonia was an amazing person for my life, teaching me how to run and freeze and some of those guys.
Freeze.
Just good people that would come alongside you and they believed in what Bulldog football was and wanted to show you the ropes. And they would stay after, come in early, whatever you needed to do to get to the next step. And I have a ton of respect for that. And that's how I lead today. It's, if somebody shows that they want to go above and beyond, I'll do everything I can to match them. And I think that's indicative of Bulldog football in general.
I know Chad's a big David Carr fan. What was that relationship like? Obviously it had to be pretty tight.
Got
literally
balls every day.
Yeah, they say he has a golden arm. I have the golden ass, so it kind of just.
Let's be real.
flowed.
He gets your ball sack. Let's not.
He hated
you have
it.
the golden balls.
He hated it because it stunk. I got to be honest. It was rough. He'd come out with perfume or deodorant or
We
whatever.
need to get him on here so we can get some
awesome.
first
I miss those days. He's doing amazing now, but just he overcame some obstacles too, and he had a gal in his corner that's now his wife, and she helped kind of get him on the path. And the Kiffin stories and all that stuff; those are all real. Those all happen. He's just a good dude. He's just as imperfect as the next guy, and you see that guy grow from someone that you kind of go, are you sure he's got? And you see him throw the ball, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's got talent. And then you see him mature into, what he became in college, and then on to the pros and had to deal with that. So I have nothing but love for him. We had a good relationship. I can't say enough good things about him, but we also were growing up at the time, and he was married, and I got married, and we're trying to be grown-ups in the middle of playing football and finding our passion and all that stuff too. So we had our own lives, but when it came to the football field, we were definitely one unit. And I protected him like my life, with my life depends on it. Because I knew Coach Hill would be my butt if I didn't. So, it was good memories. Very good memories all the way around.
See, I try to think of what his stats would have been like in these kind of offenses.
Oh, man. 4,000 or 5,000 yards.
Because you guys were power I.
We were hitting.
He had running backs. He threw maybe 20 times a game. Now, imagine
they were
if
dimes,
he threw,
though.
I know they
were. They were dimes.
Imagine if he threw like 30 to 40 times a game.
That was cool.
Open set.
Yeah, it's cool to see that transition because, Derek kind of was in that type of offense or starting into that kind of offense and seeing what he can do, and then knowing he was a more accurate passer, I think. But I think Dave just had the football knowledge and skill and the want to.
Well, he wasn't little either.
He could run you over, too.
He was a big dude.
Yeah, he was the Josh Allen before Josh Allen was born.
He was.
I think you had that, him and Berrien, and then Derek had Devontae.
Dude, he had
we had Smurfs. We had everybody. We're loaded. Mark A. Davis. We had Rodney Wright, Charles Smith. We had a squad. It was. You look back on those guys. I was thinking about on the way over here, all those guys that had an opportunity to go to the league, and just what few people make it to the league, that next level. But how many good guys we had on that team. And we were strong, we were tight. The original 25, I think we graduated 20 of us. So, which is pretty high.
Yeah, all made it through it.
Yeah. We were all in. And I don't think that I've seen a team since then like that myself. I'm sure there have been.
Well, that 01 season was huge. You had David Carr on the cover, Sports Illustrated. That first few weeks was like a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And I'm in high school at the time, so I'm not on the up and up as far as Fresno State. I loved it.
No social media.
Grew up going, yes, no social
We
media.
earned everything we got. Yeah. There's no.
You
fake
had to
stuff
be there to
Yep.
see it.
Yep.
But, you know, the Oregon State one is the one I think everybody goes back. I mean, what's in that season or in that time, like, what is your most memorable? I mean, obviously, that's kind of got to be up there. I won't say your number. I won't speak for you. But.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of them. I mean, you look at the 2000 season against Cal. That was a physical beating of a team that we knew more athletic than us, but we knew that we were better than them. And it was a physical beating. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a defensive end that played for the 49ers for a while, but he played on that team, and he came on a long stick. And I don't know if it was me or Kevin Jordan or whoever, but someone just smacked that guy in the nose and broke his nose, and he didn't want any more after that game. It was a physical beatdown, 17-3. I'll never forget that game. And then Oregon State game, another one that it felt like we were playing Reno. I mean, we were hyped and all that stuff, but when you get on the field, those kids were good. Like, that was a good team, and we just pulled them apart. It was like, you know, a praying mantis and the spider, just like.
Was that the one where I don't know who it was? Somebody just got blown up on a punt return. Like,
That was twice.
It was early.
Twice.
It was clearly a penalty, but like no shit's given.
Do it again.
This is
Do it again.
yeah, all night long.
It totally. I mean, Curtis Edwards was. I would say he was the most athletic kid that I ever played with in football, bar none. Like, the most athletic kid. He worked his butt off. Was stupid athletic. Was very intelligent, and he was a football guy. And we worked so hard on timing the punts, and to the point where snapper to punter to punt to drop, like there was a timing on that. So when he's hitting him within that cadence, and that was a little early.
Worth every bit of yardage, though.
But what a lot of people don't see is he got up and smacked the next guy just as hard. It wasn't. I mean, we were on the sideline, go, whoo, you know. It was a double whoo. But the guy played with amazing effort. I haven't really caught up with him lately, but I heard it really messed him up for a while because he was a caring dude, and that kid, I think the Oregon State guy, went to the hospital after that. So.
I was at the game. I just remember that, like, whoa, that was way early.
It was right in front of us. I mean, it was like, wow. Your eyeballs are like, oh my God, that kid's soul came out of him. So it was.
I mean, you guys still had to go to Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
I mean, that was just.
I want to say, did we beat Wisconsin before?
Was it before that one?
Wisconsin was before.
Yeah. I'm just saying that there was a stretch there where it was like, okay.
I remember
Wisconsin
Colorado.
was like,
It's not a fluke, is what I was getting at. This team's
in
not
the Wisconsin
a fluke.
game, I remember watching on TV, and you guys played them tough the whole first half, and they're like,
Bernard, man.
I know, but they were talking about, okay, Wisconsin's going to make their adjustments, come out and whoop on Fresno State, and then Bernard took the kickoff back.
Who was? They were like really run. They were always run heavy.
Did they have Dane? Was it Dane?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I know
he was good. He went to the NFL. Whoever it was, he was really good. I'm glad I
Along
didn't
with
play
their
against
whole
him.
line.
Oh my God, they're huge. They were enormous. But I remember they had a skinny defensive lineman, like 41 or 49 or something. They had this big mammoth All-American defensive tackle, and I'm like, dude, like I'm up. I shouldn't say this, but I did call a couple opposites so I could go against the little guy because the big guy got old. Like, it was old, going like opposite. Sweet, we're going this way. I like the 250-pound guy versus the 300 and whatever he was, mammoth. He was huge, All-American world. And I let Shy and my guards take care of him a lot. Got to be smarter than harder.
Coach Shy is he's a funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
I bet you got
we had a good time.
I bet you have some good stories with him.
I don't think I can repeat many of them
That's all
here,
right.
but
You can't.
Yeah, that's all right. We can do it off.
we'll grab something offline.
Yeah.
And love to get him in here. That'd be fun to get the
know.
offensive line in here.
Yes,
That'd be a
let's
blast.
do it.
He coached my kid this year, and I know what I have in him. He's not going to let my kid play unless he's top 5, period.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. So I knew when he got an opportunity to play, it was like, wow, blew my mind because I wasn't expecting him to get a chance. You know, he's an underclassman and all that stuff. So
I was going to ask you.
Love that guy.
Almost forgot.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Considering the times we're in now, because again, it's a different era, different time, different everything. If the portal was what it is now, then do you think most of the guys on that team stay though? Like your O-line?
Man, that's a big question.
And that might be why you don't see people like that. You know,
Okay, that's not me. At least that's not me that time. There's a lot of things hit me on that one. We had props. which I love the prop program. And now that I understand it, I'm an adult, and I don't know why they got rid of it, but man, what an opportunity for a guy that doesn't have the grades to be able to show his athletic ability, get taught how to, study as a student, and, get an opportunity to play Division I football. I love the prop program. So yes, I think those guys would probably skip out if that was an opportunity. My personal opinion, it's all over the board, man. I think we're in the time, the genie's open, the bottle's open, and we're not putting it back in. But my personal thing is you run what you brung, kind of thing. The guys that have come in together, fought together, have been there from day one. Those are the guys you look at in the huddle and go, well, now we're no huddle, so there's not even that. But you look at those guys in the huddle and you're like, yeah, that's my boy.
Well, you kind of I guess I answered the question is you graduated 20 of the same?
Of 25.
20 to 25.
So, yeah, we came here together. We're going to leave here together.
Yep.
Whereas today is like if you have a good freshman season as a starter, it's like, well,
see ya.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Like a kid from Cal Poly, I thought that kid was pretty decent, their quarterback. And
he's gone?
I don't know. But I was like, I wouldn't have been surprised by the end of the season if somebody saw that game and like, hey, the kid's not bad. Not too bad. Maybe he, finds I hate to say a better deal, but a deal that, further his future. That's what these guys are kind of I don't know.
So from a team perspective, I'm not for the NIL. I'm not for transferring. I'm not for any of that stuff. From a business perspective, as long as we equip these young men how to behave and how to be professionals, I think there's a huge advantage of someone going through something like that further in their life. Like they won't understand what they're going through necessarily right then, but later in life, having overcome that and gone through that and earned it for the second time, if you will, I think there's something to be said about that kid. So I'm a mixed bag. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Would it cause some chemistry issues though?
Absolutely.
Say Shy got an NIL deal for offensive lineman, and nobody else got it. You know what I mean?
But the way we were, we weren't perfect. We were definitely typical family. We hated each other and loved each other at the same time. So I can talk crap about you, but we go out and somebody says something about him, I'm in. It's all seven of us running into that fight, no doubt. But I think we would probably share it. That's how we were. Unless it was like $1 million, and I might keep that one. But it could definitely cause issues with chemistry for sure. I think there's no doubt about it. I think we're human. We're also they're immature kids. I think we look up to these kids, and like you looked up to me, which makes me feel amazing. I appreciate you remembering me. But I'm a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, doing stupid stuff that I shouldn't. Thank goodness I didn't have social media.
Little Chad knew what O-line and Mr. Stovall was doing after the game.
Not a good role model. On the field, great role model. Off the field, still learning life.
We're kidding, kids. We're joking.
Be an adult when you're 20.
But it's these kids are these are some big life decisions.
Huge.
And you're talking about money that's life-changing money. That you may never see.
Well, imagine David Carr making more money than Pat Hill. What do you do?
True. How do you coach that?
How do you? He could just be like, fuck you. I'm making $2 million more than you.
Yep.
I'll just go play somewhere else.
Yep.
I don't know if that wasn't a mentality.
No, David Carr wouldn't have done
because
that.
there just wasn't what we have now.
Yeah.
We've said it before.
So
there wasn't social
starting?
media. There wasn't iPhones. The internet was still fairly new. It wasn't. There wasn't any of this stuff.
How do you tell a kid? You have a kid that's a senior. Is it the linebacker or the O-lineman?
Linebacker.
So if somebody comes in
deep snapper.
That's where he's a what?
He's deep snapper too.
Well, that's where he's going to make his money.
He'll be in
NFL.
Yep,
right there.
Come on.
So somebody came to him and was like, "All right, we want you to come to our school. We'll give you an NIL deal of 125, but maybe that's not the school he wanted to go to, and then the school he wants to go to doesn't have an NIL deal for him. How's a kid supposed to? Well, I want to go here, but that $125,000,
that'll change my life.
You know what I mean? But
and a scholarship.
But then
it's on top.
But then you
of.
Also might not even play.
Yeah, it's
true.
But you might not even play, or
Well,
if you invest that money, you're going to play. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Would think.
Let's say you do take that deal, and they invest that $120,000, your scholarship, whatever, and then
but we just saw a kid make all $3 million from Ohio State and transfer to Texas.
Well, I think you're you're onto something there. But I think the underlying part of that is who do you have around you? Because that support structure is really that's really important, man. Because you can throw the 125 out to a kid that.
And does that person think, well,
oh man,
now they're under our thumb?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're not.
Yep.
And some of these people that have been just throwing money at these kids thinking, all right, we own them now, are going to soon find out, like the Ohio States, where you have the top recruiting quarterback leave, take his money and run somewhere else to get more.
Yep.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where, like, the kid takes 120 grand, and then next season he's all conference and Alabama calls. Yeah. It's like, here, I got that and some.
It's accumulation. Yeah.
And I mean, it's just going to.
What you don't also see too is, and I think it's coming to light now, is the kids that go into the portal and they don't make it. They get into a worse situation. They're not as prevalent.
Or there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah, because somebody else slides in front of them. They were told something by a coach. The thing that, if I could tell a kid today, the most important thing, two most important things you can have around you is people that you trust, number one. And number two, understand that football, baseball, basketball, whatever this is, it's a business for the coach that's recruiting you. It is not a personal thing. It is a business. If they understand that,
they have to win.
Which is an 18-year-old kid, that's hard to understand because you got all these cool things being said about you. I know my sons and I have talked through all of that. Is when someone calls, that's okay. I appreciate you, coach. Thank you, coach. Whether you're, into that university or not, you respect them just as much as you would the person that would be your dream call, because you never know where that person is going to wind up, especially today. And they're seeing it with HIT.OR.DIE. I mean, that was a good example for us. I
was pissed.
I was too.
We kind of we let it be known here, but
I didn't see that one.
I think we were more pissed how it happened.
Yeah,
it went down.
No, I know.
We weren't mad. Any one of us would take that jump.
I said it on here. Nobody wants to lose a good coach.
No.
Like, he's a good coach, and like,
especially what we had right before him. And then he was bringing back that old school
mentality.
Fresno State football.
Well, I'm talking to people that knew him. I was just like, nobody has anything negative to say about that. Not even as a human being.
Yeah.
Everything was like, this guy, he did this. And I talked to a high school coach. He's like, dude, out of nowhere, he showed up here on a Saturday, and nobody knew he was even coming. He knew what was happening, and he was there. I was like, dude, like, you don't see that. Not from Division I college coaches.
He has an O-line mentality. I mean, that's kind of what I told him. We went. I took him out to Dos Palos. We went crab feeding. You guys got to come with us.
I know the Davis brothers. Davis brothers out there.
They put on a crab feed. You've never tasted crab this good. I swear to goodness, and all that goes with it. It's the whole fixins and everything. But anyways, took him out there one year, and he was blown away. He's like, wow, what is this place? And I was like, this is where Coach Hill, this was one of the spots that he put 30 grand in the net, 40 grand in the net every time he came out here and did this recruiting pitch, because these guys were in. This is Bulldog football. So I will tell you, he held true to his word. You also got to understand, before I go into that, he's looking over his shoulder. This guy's getting healthy. This guy's a legend behind me. I need to go do what's right for me and let this guy have the reins. I mean, he had ultimate respect for Coach Tedford. There was not a negative word out of that man's mouth about Tedford the whole time. So for him to go and take the next step, I don't know the whole story. I never will. But he always made a comment, hey, wherever I go, you're welcome. And we went up and checked him out at Washington this year with my kids, and it was phenomenal. I mean, he held true to his word, and I have nothing but good things to say about that man.
Yeah, everybody I talked to did. It was disappointing. I was mad because, again, we're dog fans, and we want the best for this program. Obviously you're going to go do what. Yeah. It was the same with Haynard trying to leave too. I was like, you're our best option to win. I don't want to see you leave. Like, it pissed me off.
Good example of people around you.
Yeah, I know I'm a little indifferent, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not wrong though. He was our best option to win. You can't disagree with that.
As long as he was able to blend back into the locker room, I agree with you, and he did, obviously.
Yeah,
and these guys loved him. So it goes to show you.
And you're right. It's
20
selfish.
years ago,
it's a fan thing.
Peace out. Don't come back.
Yeah.
That would have been the attitude of us. Today, it's different.
And maybe it was. Maybe he did have to earn that back. Who knows?
I don't know. He played in the bowl game right away.
So, I'm just saying through the teammates.
What's that? Oh, when he came back?
Played in the bowl game?
Yeah.
Pissed me off.
Bygones be bygones, right? He did okay. He got us to where we needed to go this year, and hopefully we got somebody.
Where do you think that, obviously from your time to now, lots happened. And again, times are different. The world's different. People are different. Everything about the game, even rules are different. There's different, just everything's different. Where do you feel Fresno State's at? What could Fresno State do better? In your opinion, just your opinion. What are we, the NIL deals is a big thing, right? Like,
yep, that's coming.
The red wave is the red wave of when you were at Fresno State is not the same red wave as far as financial go.
No, I think there's been some tactical errors throughout the Fresno State's attempt at trying to maneuver through Title IX and NIL now and some other things. There's been athletic directors that have come and gone that were not suited for that position. I could name off names, but Thomas Bay is not my friend. He absolutely imploded this university. Obviously the AD before him made some sexual harassment stuff and, gender issues and all that stuff. So there's all kinds of lawsuits that have gone through to hurt us. And I think Athletic Corp has been a huge demise for us. There's a level that a lot of people don't know between the athletic director and the president, and it's the Athletic Corp. And the Athletic Corporation basically decides on how many footballs you get, all the way up to renovations and everything else. So they're the keys to the castle, if you will. And you're dealing with, business people that are hopefully in it for the right reason. I think there was a time and a place that was a really good option for Fresno State. I think today, with Toomey at the reins, we have an AD that gets it. That guy is in. I don't know if you guys ever brought him up or not, but you want to talk about a class act. That guy, I'd run through walls for that guy because I know his demeanor, but I also know his character and I know his passion, and it's truly the athletes that he represents. And we have a president that has spoken and said that he's on board for athletics, and we're kind of waiting to see those things go together.
Well, you kind of mentioned too, like Fresno State goes as, everybody.
The president said it.
Yeah, that's right.
I was echoing it. Yeah,
yeah. It's pretty much any
university. The football, as good as your football is, and as good as the facilities and everything, your whole institution goes.
Well, and there's professors that are getting in the middle. Fun fact. The health or the nursing program makes more off the Valley Children's deal than football.
Did not know that.
Look that up. That's some deep stuff right there. They make $90,000 a year. We make about 50 when it's all said and done. So you do the math on that.
But they needed their name by itself.
Oh God, I think the Valley Children's deal and the Measure E definitely give credence to the work that Fresno State needs to do in the Valley. There's a lot of people in this Valley that have a lot of money, and they are wanting to be a part of something special like we were in 2001. Anywhere you went and whatever you did, you were getting taken care of, and in whatever capacity someone could. If it was a ride somewhere or, whatever it could be, we'll get into the details, but you never know where this might creep. But, people...
Where'd the O-line eat?
Probably where the basketball team ate. Tomodachi's, we ate there quite a bit, and we paid for it, but we had to clean up our meal, and it was discounted and all that stuff. But there was a lot of good perks back then, and I think now that there's the NIL deal, I think there's a lot of people that are on the sidelines, especially in the economy that we have. I think hopefully it's creeping up, and over the next 10 years, we'll have people that want to partner with us. But there's got to be an apology. That's my opinion. Is Fresno State has to apologize for the mess that they've created in these last 20 years, 25 years.
To the fans?
To the fans. To guys that have had season tickets for 25 years, to guys that, they went from selling arena to Sabmar was a horrible deal. There's layers of, the pissed offness that's gone on in this Valley. Fresno State fans want a true blue, say what you mean what you say program, and coaches that are like that, players that are like that. I remember going to the mall, and we'd sign autographs at the mall, and just the amount of farmers and guys that, they come in dirty boots, and, they're not all, prissy and high end. But they're wealthy as all get out as long as they got water. They come in and give you hugs and shake your hands and tell you, how much, you mean to them and appreciate you. And that means something, man. And I bought off on that in Fresno. And, my mentors gave me an opportunity in this Valley, and I've taken advantage of it. I worked my butt off to get here, but I also had an opportunity and a hand. I had to take it, but they gave me an opportunity to provide for my kids and provide for my family. And there's very few places like this that are, it's not a huge corporate environment. It's a farmer with 500 acres. It's a a doctor that got a small practice, maybe 2 locations, and you build all that up and you create those layers. This place could be something that. Man,
well, it's fine. I guess what I was saying is that it was.
No, you're good.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of the thing is that it was that.
It was.
And it was big
Coach
time.
Hill worked his ass off to get there.
And at some point there was a disconnect somewhere. And maybe letting him go rubbed a lot of that wrong way.
A lot of people got upset because of his play calling. I don't know if you realize this, but
we were upset with the 3rd and long wide receiver screens. Okay,
there was.
But how many Division I offensive defensive coordinators get paid $60,000 a year?
Not now.
Well, when his last couple of years of being there, that's how much they got paid. So he pulled money out of his own pocket to pay people. I mean, you got a guy
that's a lot back then.
Grady, I have tons of respect for Jeff Grady. He was an offensive coordinator. As far as I knew, he never had any coaching experience, and he's a Division I offensive coordinator. Okay, I mean he's a good mind. He's a great mind, but he had quarterback. He was smart though.
I wasn't a Grady fan.
No, okay, that's
well.
fair.
We just had freaking David Carr.
Yeah, you go from Pinnegar. Yeah, I get that. But he was serviceable and good attitude and team player. So I don't know. There's a lot to unpackage there. There's a lot of scars. There's a lot of, people upset. And, what I would say is a plea to Fresno State fans is be vocal. Don't be afraid to be vocal. Come out loud and proud. I know the voices that are in that stadium are now, my age and a little bit older. And we're in a position that we weren't, 20 years ago, that we can make a difference. And I do believe in, not just because my kids are getting that age, but it's time. It's time to show Fresno State.
You're still here.
We don't want apathy. We don't want laziness. We want to be. We want to hold you accountable. But yes, we will open up our pocketbooks if we see a product that we want to represent.
Do you think
the facility?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, you talk about even
there's 2 entrances:
the baseball field, the football field.
Duncan,
the Fresno football stadium. To walk out, it's like. It's not a fun walk for a person sitting up high.
No, there is some.
Go ahead.
There is some renovations that they want to talk about. There were all that stuff was in plans. Measure E. I think there's been a gross underestimation of how happy the Fresno State fans are with Fresno State athletics. I think they got put squarely on their forehead after the Measure E was turned down. I think it was poorly done. I mean, you hand one person $2 million to go. Throw down on marketing and try to push the thing. You dig in. I spent 20 minutes on the thing, and I'm not going to support anything that goes and gives a construction company all the bid, gives first right of refusal. I'm not going to support that. Period. That's a business decision. I want to bid it out and see what we can get. I remember when the car thing was a big deal. When they did the used cars on the red lot, there was. I had probably 1,000 cars. It felt like 1,000 cars, but we were working for it, and people were in. It wasn't about selling the car. It was about people being on the red lot and being a part of Fresno State football and something bigger than themselves. People want to be there. It's just got to have a real talk and a real apology and have a 5-year plan that everybody can buy into. Measure E is a Band-Aid. As a purist, I'm glad it didn't pass. As a Fresno State fan. And seeing my kids go into that program, I wish it would have passed, because it would have been easier for us. But there is plans to go into that stadium and remodel top to bottom. But you got to get over some hurdles first.
It's going to take some coin.
You got to apologize.
Yeah.
Man.
So do you think politics played some of that too? Like
huge.
Just within
Sadly.
faculty and how what
it comes
campus
back,
life became like too.
We had a blast on campus, for record. It was good times. We had we had water soaking contests and all kinds of crazy stuff, but drive around in our cars, and Corporal Washington was amazing because I could have been arrested like 20 times, but he always brought me back to my Birch Hall. Anyways, sidebar. He's a lieutenant when he retired, so I got a lot of respect for him. But where were we? What were we talking about?
Politics.
Yeah, politics.
Yeah.
It's Athletic Corp. It comes back to that. You pick that apart. You watch where the money flows. It all comes up very, very simple. My ex-wife also worked for the business office, athletic business office. So I met some of the folks that worked back then, and I've met them for coffee lately, the last 4 or 5 years, just kind of get an understanding of where did we go wrong? Like, what happened? Why aren't we better than where we should be? You look at Boise State, obviously they beat us that year, and they went on to just wreak havoc in football. And they put all their cards in football, and look where they're at. I mean, they're getting considered.
They benefited financially great. And so did the conference. So did Fresno State.
There were nobody before all this, right? 20 years ago.
3 Fiesta Bowls, I think,
right.
They won.
So kudos to them, but they have a leadership. They two things they have we don't is they have leadership that's willing to be accountable and be truthful, and they have a plan. That's from my take. I think there's good people in our leadership. I'm not taking away like Toomey. I think very highly of him, very highly of him. But I think there's people around in the political world that are more focused on themselves and their income than what's best for Fresno State. And at that point, I disagree with you. I don't want you there. That's where I'm at.
I think that's why Measure E didn't pass, is people didn't think the money was going to go to Fresno State.
Well, I mean, you saw the negotiations that happened at the end. Take the Valley Children's deal. It wasn't going to happen, I guess, and this is hearsay. This is from what I heard. But at the last second, the health department or nursing department got a whole bunch of money every year because they were upset about it. Well, benefit. Look at the big picture. If Fresno State wins, everybody wins. We all win.
How's the nursing program losing money? It's like one of the hardest programs to get into.
Yeah, and they don't communicate well, but that's a whole nother topic too. I've heard through the grapevine they don't tell you to register, and then they call you and ask you why you didn't register. Sorry, you can't be in the program. But that's neither here nor there. Just communication. It comes down to communication and holding people accountable. If we did that, I think this place would be considered for the Pac-12, Big Ten, whatever conference we needed to step up to. I think we would be the first in line.
I think that's the hard part because they want a winner. They're not going to want somebody that's going to get their butts kicked every year. Enrollment has a lot to do with that. Success has a lot to do with that. Them winning the conference, going into this LA bowl game, I'm sure there's some good money in where we're going this week.
We hope.
So things like that on a consistent, and that's where when you bring up Boise State, when you're doing those things, that is how a Pac-12 says, hey,
I want them.
This could fit in here.
I hate saying that word. It's just a cuss word. Like, I hate that word, Boise.
Hey, you brought it up.
I know.
I was surprised you brought it up.
I hate Boise.
Cam Worrell's going to be mad.
I hate Boise. You brought it up. Yeah.
I despise them as well. What's really shitty is that game in 01. Behind me was a Boise State player from an alumni.
You're on the field?
No, I was in the stands this time, and all he did was, this is the play. They're cover this, and I just wanted to dude, shut up, fuck up. And we're losing. It's even worse. He's got his jersey from when he played on. I just wanted to just punch it, but I mean, he would have kicked my ass. I was a high school kid, but I just so annoying. And then to add insult, they beat us. So.
Fun fact, I mean, on that last play, it goes over in my head over and over and over again. We called a 2 outside call, which is guys coming off the edge, and we got to push a tackle and guard out. I'm not blaming Logan because he's a true freshman getting thrown into the game. He's got a bunch coming at him. Obviously, he ended up okay.
Yeah, he did all right for himself, yeah.
So I don't feel sorry for him, but as a kid, 18, 19-year-old kid jumping out of left tackle, says something about the kid. He was definitely special. But we missed the 2 outside call, and the safety came in and sacked David, and that was the game. But we should truthfully never been in that position. We should have handily beat those guys. But we're riding the wave like everybody else. We're 8-0.
Well, and you get to that point, you're nationally ranked. You're 8-0. Like
8 in the
you're
country.
getting everybody's bullets.
Yep.
I mean, you guys lost to Hawaii too, right?
Yep.
And then
the game after that,
and the bowl game, I believe.
We lost the bowl
Well,
game.
I was thinking Louisiana Tech won the WAC that year with their first year in.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was a blur after that.
Yeah.
I remember,
it's like
I remember beating some guy up in Hawaii, and that's all I remember about the whole season. It's a complete blur after that, honestly. I remember Colorado because I had left the team and came back, and I felt like I was out of shape, so I was trying to get back into shape. I remember Oregon State and Wisconsin and Colorado State that year. I think we either overtime or it was really close. I don't remember. And then after Boise and Hawaii, I don't remember anything. I have no idea what happened.
Yeah,
it's a blur.
It's still, like as much good as that season had in the way it started. It was also had some frustrations.
We were 11-3.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool.
It's awesome. It's a great record.
But we lost to Boise. Garbage. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a game plan there that I think we can get back to relevance. It's going to take some commitment and time, and I think with just having the budget.
You kind of mentioned some things going on possibly here in the future with certain people in Fresno. Do you want to kind of bring that up? Pacheco?
Oh, yeah. Pacheco. He's a D lineman, and we all know that offensive linemen are more intelligent than defensive linemen, so I'll start with that. But another guy that just reeks of Bulldog Bred, Bulldog born. He bleeds Bulldog Red, so Bulldog blood. So him and I have been sitting. It's his creation. I'm just tagging along for the ride, but I believe in the players, and I think that's where we can start. Us as fans is if we don't want to give money to the program, invest in these kids and keep these kids here and give Tedford an opportunity directly to keep these kids at home or here. And so I'm part of the Bulldog Bred, BREAD, NIL agreement that we're going to start interviewing the kids, figuring out where their passions are, and then trying to match them up with entities that are in the public that want to keep them here, and that's a financial thing.
If there's kids locally here that want to go be dogs, is there a way for them to anywhere for them to go reach out or connect?
Right now, just look up Bulldog Bred. I believe it's bulldogbred.com. I'll put the link up when I get it for sure. But we just got the website up. We were just starting this. There is an opportunity through Fresno State to go into the NIL. I don't know the steps to do that, but this is going to be a separate entity that we're setting up, or he's setting up, that we're going to be a part of, and we're going to go out and actively pursue businesses, including ourselves. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and I wouldn't do something like this if I wasn't part of it myself. I don't believe in that, but we're going to go recruit businesses to be a part of NIL for the players and see if we can't get some fun deals going and make it fun. I mean, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else has got a system of some kind or just money that.
We're behind.
I agree. I agree.
We're behind.
I agree.
These kids are already getting offers from different schools. We all know it. I want to do I want to do something. I want to be a part of something that's way bigger than myself. And maybe we're the benefactor of it at some point with our kids, but who knows? But for us, it's bigger than us.
Well, I think it helps having gone through it.
Yeah.
Right. Having played and your blood's in that stadium to help. 20 years later now.
Hopefully.
You know what I mean?
We left that program at a high, and it's gone through some bumps and bruises. It's got some highs. There's been definitely some highs along the way, and I won't take that away from any Mountain West championships and all that stuff. But we left that program in a place where it should have continued into the top 25 consistently. And it's disappointing being an ex-player. There's a lot of players that you realize there's I think I was doing the math. It's been, 20 years since I've been there, and about 20, 25 people per year. There's been roughly 400 to 500 ex-athletes come out of Fresno State football since I've been there. And I see 30 of them at the game in our alumni tailgate. I see 50 of them at the game.
Should we do more with athletes that like the Devontae Adams, the Derek, the Carrs, to get them involved? I
don't know the business angle on that as much as I probably should to comment there, but I think
I know didn't Mankins do some stuff for Fresno State, the field, right? Or no?
Do we talk about that?
Did you guys talk about that?
We haven't
talked about anything.
Oh, you want to dig on that one? That's something that pierced a lot of offensive linemen's soul. As Mankins stepped up, I don't remember exactly the number. I don't want to be quoted on a number, but say $100 grand or more,
a lot,
right? And put his name on Mankins on the sideline,
and it was gone fairly shortly after.
When they replaced the turf, they didn't allow him to move that onto the new turf.
I mean, I always wondered that. I remember it being there.
That struck a lot of us hard.
And like, well, why not? He paid for it, so it makes sense.
Because he didn't pay for the new turf, they didn't allow him to carry it on. He would have had to give another set of money to that.
Why did they even need to replace? And that shit wasn't even that old.
Politics.
Okay.
How do you tell a Hall of Famer,
a first round pick, Super Bowl champion?
Well, I mean, let's ask, while we're talking about this, let's throw down. Why isn't his number retired?
It's not retired.
He ain't coming back here. Why would he? When I say pierce your soul, that's a business decision that's not right, not good. What's the Dolphins up there for? Sorry.
No, I'll tell you the story. It's a
squirrel.
No, it's a good story. It's a good story. But a friend of ours.
It needs to be had. That conversation needs to be had because that man his number should be retired
without question.
Yeah. Not even what he did in the
not
league.
even up for debate.
It's what he did here. He turned into a monster of an athlete, and he's up in Cathy's Valley and doesn't want to be bothered, and he's living his life, and he's okay. He's good. He's perfectly fine being up there, but there's a part of his soul that would want to be a part of this the field or whatever it is. Again, Fresno State football, because he came from, Coach Hill found him, I think, recruiting someone else, as the story goes. He wasn't even recruited, and he was asked, I believe he was asked to walk on, and he earned a scholarship really quick. I don't know the exact details, so I could be wrong there, but that guy is the epitome of Bulldog football. And for us to have him be in a position where he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I'm speaking.
Well, are the alumni not heard either? Do they not listen to you guys?
I think as long as we, man, you're getting me into some hot water now.
We do give money
back
a little bit.
We do give money to Club Red. We give money to Bulldog Foundation. Quarterback Club is my passion. That's where I think the fans grow out of. So I think there's a lot of layers to this, but I think the proof's in the pudding. When Kevin Jordan and a guy named Kevin Adams, I don't know if you remember him or not, he's no longer with us, God rest his soul, but a bunch of those guys put together Bring It Home Weekend, and it was a grassroots thing that we did probably 10 years ago, and we had 300 guys rolling in from all over the country to be proud. I mean, we all had T-shirts made. Sam Williams made T-shirts when he was a Raider. There's a really good thing going with all the football guys, and then all the other sports got upset about they wanted to be a part of the homecoming with us. So then we couldn't have our kids in the field, and there was all these rules that kind of squelched everything down. And it was like, wow, okay, so we can't even do the homecoming, Bring It Home Weekend for us. Well, everybody's like, peace out. I think I didn't even do it this year, which I love that. I mean, I love bringing my kids on the field and letting them see the guys run through the gauntlet and see guys across. We'd line up in two lines down the hash marks basically, and the football team would run through the middle of it, and you'd see guys across the way that, man, I haven't seen you in 15 years. What's up? Reconnecting, having a barbecue before that. I mean, we can do it if they leave us alone. It would happen naturally again, but there's too many restrictions. Operations is tough. I mean, they change their minds all the time. It's hard.
How do you create tradition that way? Like you look at Auburn, you look at all these other schools that have their traditions that they do.
Well, the old saying is you can't see the cracks because you're on the ship, or there's some kind of saying around that. Step back every once in a while, look at the boat. There's cracks all over that boat. Like, let's figure out how to patch them. It's not that I want to call anybody out or be a jerk. There's problems. Like, let the people in the room say that there's problems, and then let's put a plan together to fix it. I don't have all the answers.
At some point, it kind of sounds like there are people maybe that aren't concerned that there are problems.
It's a short-term mentality.
Are some of these people? I mean, but then again, so it goes exactly. Mm-hmm. How many are here for the long haul? Because the person that's not here for the long haul doesn't give a shit what you have to say.
Right.
They don't care about the alumni. They're not there. I'm in 2 years, I'm going to be an AD at a bigger place. Mm-hmm. My goal is, this is a resume piece.
Mm-hmm. That's where the disconnect is. You see people like Toomey. I know that guy's all in. There's no doubt about it. That guy's got the heart of gold.
So what do we got to do to keep guys? Like, it was like, and that's where the anger went to board. Like, how do we keep
guys like that?
These quality people.
That's a big topic. And you probably need more than me in here to answer that.
Well, we obviously missed on a lot of stuff. We could do another few episodes of these, I'm sure. And this is different from us. We're baseball to our core.
Yep.
We talk a lot of baseball on here, but again, being Fresno State's, playing in a big bowl game this week, mm-hmm. It just was fitting. And the timing worked out really well when we'd spoke.
Yeah, cut me up where you need to, because I'm not trying to blow hats off doors yet, but I do care about Fresno State. I care about Fresno State basketball, Fresno State football, baseball. It is a passion, and when you hang out with those guys, Melvin Eli is a guy that I worked out with. I taught him how to bench. He'll probably laugh when he hears this, if he does or hear this, but the guy had arms from here to the wall, and he couldn't bench to save his life. And Amici. All those guys, we all worked out together. It wasn't like there was just football and we didn't, hang out. It was, we were all in. Dan and the football wrestling team. I'm going blank right now, but he's from Kingsburg, but just local guys that you connect with that you still know. You still interact with each other, and it's more than just football. It's sports all in general. I mean, we're all athletes. So we stick together. There's a lot to be said about the potential here. This is a gold mine if we do this right. And I mean, anything that you want to say about what I said or didn't say, that's fine. What I have to say through that is my heart's in the right place. So,
or reach out.
Yep. Reach out. If you have ideas, let's go.
Honestly, I don't think you said anything on here that was...
Okay. I could. There's stuff going on in my head.
You are allowed to have your own opinion and think for yourself.
Sometimes you wonder. I mean...
No, some people don't like that, and that's all right. We've had our share on with doing this podcast for the last couple of years. I think our hearts are in the right place, and I love that that we have an alumni on here that's maybe talking about stuff that our audience that are Fresno State fans have never heard before.
Yep.
They may not even be aware. The Minkins thing that's the first time I'd heard it.
Yep.
And there's no reason for him to come back.
There's no reason for him not to be his number.
The reason why folks like that come back is because there's a dollar added to it. And if things were done the correct way, I don't think there would have to be money added to that equation.
But like a rational person, I know we're just running on and on, but you donate all. No, I'm not going to cut nothing out. Donate this money, and we're going to have a ceremony to open our first home game with this turf. Mm-hmm. Just using my brain says that's the time you retire his number. It's pretty simple.
100%.
There's not a lot of math that needs to go in there.
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah, here we go. He's going to come to unveil the new turf. And at the same time, hey, surprise, big guy.
Check that out.
And surprise him with
this is what you mean to us.
It's not hard.
Yep.
But when you don't have the people and the personnel thinking about the university and its alumni that way, where this is a stepping stone, those things can happen, and it sucks that it happened. I hate it for him. I mean, because you're right. There's no reason. There's no good excuse to not have the numbers up there.
Agreed. I mean, it's personal, and that's the hard part. Is you got to separate. From a business standpoint, we got to go this way.
Right.
But from a personal standpoint, man.
And listen, when you're trying to mend things to now get past, sometimes you got to let certain things go. As prideful as you can be, sometimes you have to let the bygones be bygones and say, in order for us to move forward and prosper, we're gonna have to eat and swallow our pride on some of this shit and come together to go forward.
I agree with you. As long as I'll go back to my kids a little bit. We say I'm sorry, but I'm sorry means I'm going to try not to do it again.
Right.
Put steps in place not to do it again.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge. Would be, what are the steps that you're putting in place so that this doesn't happen again? If you do leave in 2 years, which everyone's entitled to have a better opportunity, right? I respect that. I do. I also there also needs to be a plan that everyone in the valley understands, so that we can start trusting people again that are in that position. And the president on down, president said we would sit down and talk. That was before the season. That was in August at the kickoff dinner. It's December, and I haven't heard anything. So, what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, I'm not good enough. Okay, you're probably right. But I'm not the one that said, hey, I want to reach out to you and have a meeting with you.
I feel like if there's people out there that want to get involved and contribute, especially alumni, there's no reason for that not to happen.
Just create trust. Be open. No, let us see where your pitfalls are. I don't need to know your dirty laundry. But there is an opportunity to.
Well, the goal is to grow and make it a big thing.
And it's just like a football team. You purge. Let's get rid of the folks that don't want to be here. That's okay. It's okay.
Or get the people that want to be involved.
Yeah.
The Pacheco's in the world. Like, let's get the right people that want to do it.
Yep.
That don't have to, but are willing to. Get them involved. There's no reason not to.
There's plenty of them. So
there's plenty, and there's enough resources here to establish something. I think you guys are on the right track. I love it. And like I said, we could probably go on and on for hours.
I eat this stuff up.
And we'll have to do it again. I've really enjoyed having you.
I want to get the O-line.
Yeah, dude, that's been great.
That'd be fun. That would be a racket. Holy cow.
We're in.
We're old
We'll
now.
just step away.
Yeah,
we'll give a topic. And
you guys just start regurgitating some stories, and that would be fun to do.
Like hungry hippos, like just grabbing everything. Let's go.
Mike, I appreciate you joining us.
Likewise.
Again, congrats to all the high schools here in the Valley that won section titles, state titles. Shafter, again, I was a runner-up and on an awesome season. We'll see all the other local news stuff that happens. But good luck to the Dogs this weekend.
Brandon Ramirez is going to be a Bulldog. That's exciting.
I hope they let him be a running back because he was unbelievable.
Man, but do you see him I could go both ways. It depends on the depth chart. He's going to start out on defense. We all know that. But that boy could look like a freaking barrel-chested freight train coming at you when you
grow up in Hanford,
Goodness gracious.
You know what I mean?
I never even heard of that before this year. My kids came from Sanger, just so you know. So we were at the Hanford Trail, but we just wanted good coaching and opportunities and go play, So it worked out for us.
No, you guys were good. Had a good year.
Can't say enough good things about Ghostin. That'd be a good guy to have on this podcast too. He's a good man. There's a lot of good high school coaches in this valley, and he is definitely one of them. He is a man of his word, and he doesn't ask for much. Just be honest with him, be on time, and take care of business. And I like those coaches. That's the pedigree.
Yeah, I think anybody lucky to have a lot of good coaches in all sports. And it's just a pretty lucky area. We like to bitch and complain a lot about some of the things we don't see or don't like, but we are pretty fortunate to have some of the people around here we do.
Yep, I agree. High school football high school sports in general. What you gotta, if you don't know this, and I think a lot of the coaches do, but what I will say is the high school coaches, their job number one before wins and losses is developing those young men and women to be leaders in their community, and that's really what it's all about. The wins and losses will come, and the administrations are, this or that, or you can throw down on all that stuff all you want, but when it comes down to it, it's pulling that kid aside and having a conversation and saying, hey, you know what, you're good enough, and a lot of those kids have never heard that. So that's, for me, that's what made the difference in my life. And for my kids, it's happening to them right now, which is really cool to watch. And that's really what this is all about, is giving kids opportunities that may not have opportunities. The Shafters of the world, they're not going to go be, Apple business people tomorrow, but they may become that in the future. So,
well, you got it. Apparently there's some athletes down there that, it's worth. Let's try to keep them home.
Let's put them in the portal. Just kidding.
Let's high school portal or the
curveball.
That's another subject.
Both are large portals.
Yep.
But no, that's a guy like, hey, is it worth the Dogs taking a look and trying to keep as much home talent as we can? I love it.
Yep.
But again, no, thank you for doing this.
Appreciate the time, opportunity.
No, absolutely, and I'm sure we'll be able to do this again. Chad, as always, love sitting across from you, bud. That is another episode of Hit or Die podcast. Go Dogs.
Hit or Die. Hit or Die.